Okay, this is what I'm really excited about today because I get to learn alongside everyone else watching from the three of you who have multiple times, probably unknowingly and maybe knowingly, inspired me because you have really modeled how to teach people to get interested in family history, to start doing something in family history. And I think it's really inspiring to see individuals such as yourself so passionate about something that you're willing to jump on Instagram like Megan and show people how to do things and talk to people you have no idea who they are. And Jana to say like, I love family history so much. I'm going to make a YouTube channel for kids with my, 7 kids. And Nicole, I love the things that you do and the lens that you bring to families and activities and ways to be interactive. So we are here to learn from you today. And so I'd love for you guys to just quickly introduce yourself. And then let's really talk today about teaching people how to kind of get excited about family history and teaching them in a way where they're going to be successful. And that's what we're here to learn from you today. So welcome everybody. And these three, and let's go with Megan. Let's start with you doing an intro and maybe just give us a little info on what inspired you to start understanding and learning family history.
Sure. Okay, so I am Megan, married, have 7 kids. We live in Canada. I know, I'm in the Jana Club.
Yes, I want to be in the Jana Club. Too late though.
It's a little crazy. But I don't know, I've always been interested in family history. I grew up seeing my dad work on it all the time. And about 4 years ago, I started doing Pathway and then took the family history research degree from BYU, Idaho. And then as soon as I started learning, I just wanted to share it with other people. I was like, everyone should know how to do this. Everyone should know how to find their ancestors and connect with them. And so that's really what started me to start an Instagram page. And I never thought I would do that. Now I have a podcast and I just really want to help people get started.
Okay. So we're going to for sure talk a little bit more about what you do on Instagram. But like I said, I think it's very inspiring. And I love that you have gone to school for this. So people that don't know, Pathways is an online education it's a college program. And so you can take and get certified and get degrees in lots of different ways. And there's a really funny connection here that we'll talk about later. But Jana, tell us who you are and a little bit about you and what inspired you to get started.
Yeah, I got started in family history as a teenager, really. I was always interested in it, but I had a mentor who I love, and he is my grandfather. He's gone to the other side now, but he did something really cool. When I was 16, he called me up because he knew I had a new car. And he said, Jana, I am in a wheelchair. Why don't you come pick me up and take me to the family history library? I need a ride. Which was interesting because he could have called anybody. He's got neighbors, but he called me. It was great. I loved my grandfather, so I would go and pick him up occasionally and take him to the family history library. I became his research slave. He would give me projects, stick my head in a microfilm reader, say, look for this and that. And I learned to love records and family history. So it was my grandpa that got me started, but I ended up degreeing in genealogy research from BYU and getting an accreditation. And England is my favorite thing. England research is my specialty.
Fantastic. Thank you. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about helping people get started in family history, feel free to pop some questions in the chat and we will, we have a couple of things that we want to talk about, but then we will take questions. All right, Nicole, up to you.
Oh, great. So when I was 16, my mom introduced me to family history by inviting me up into her office to work on some research that she was doing. She had just received all of my grandfather's family history papers, and he didn't know much about his ancestors. And so he had written letters to courthouses in the South, which is where he's from. And so we were just kind of starting from scratch, building his tree. And it was exciting to make new discoveries every day. And we had just moved to a new area, so I didn't have a lot of friends. So I was just kind of sucked into this family history research and really got really into it. And then I started studying history in college, and I got a degree in history teaching, and I just continued researching family history, and I became a consultant for my local area at the Family History Center and stuff. And then my mom got accredited, and she's a professional researcher, and then she trained me, and now I'm a professional researcher as well. So we work together. It's so fun. And we have a website where we write blog posts, and it's just the best to work on a family history business with my mom. I love it.
That is the best story. And didn't you publish a book recently?
Yeah, we have a book, Research Like a Pro, and it's all the steps that she kind of learned when she was going through accreditation to solve cases.
Research Like a Pro. We didn't need to look at you guys, and you can get the book. So you've all been interested in family history through different methods. And why is it important for you to teach? Because this is something you're all passionate about. Like, why, what motivates you to do that? We'll go to Jana first.
Sure. I love it. And that's why I want to teach it. Don't you find that when you find something amazing, you just want to stand up on something tall and scream it to the world? That's family history for me. And I think everybody is like that. You don't have to be a professional or an expert to feel that way. If you discover something in your own family history that makes you excited, then naturally you want to share it, and you want to help other people to feel excited too. So I've made my life teach family history project. And so I've got the 7 kids. I love to teach them however I can. And then of course, I've taught at conferences and online and to various groups, and for BYU Idaho for a while. This is just something I love to do. So I do it.
Okay, I love that. You guys, let me tell you the kind of things I share with my friends. It's like, nothing quite as significant as family history. It's like a new song or, something like that. But yeah, when you find something meaningful, right, you want to share. And I was talking about an experience I had a couple months ago at the local cemetery. I think I was telling you guys. And there was a car with some, young men who were looking for, this was right when pandemic happened, and they were just kind of driving around. And I was like, they asked me a question, and we had a conversation, and it turned into, from a distance saying, download the Family Tree Family Search app. Let me show you about my ancestors. So we're in this, like the driveway, at the cemetery, and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then they found, someone in their family who had passed a long time ago, and they went and found their grave. So I do think that there's this, like, how can we connect? How can we inspire people? And Megan, I think it's interesting because you have a connection to Jana that I think you should tell people watching about.
Yes. Yeah. So when I started out my degree at BYU Idaho, Jana was one of my teachers in one of my first classes. Yay. She did a great job.
That's so cool. Yes. And now you're here, and now you're teaching people. And so Jana, like, this is a great way to see.
It's so rewarding, isn't it? It really is rewarding to share with people. You bet.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, what about you? Like, why? I mean, you learned from your mom. You and your mom do this.
Well, we were both teachers in school. So I taught middle school first, and I even gave my students a family history project where they had to work on their pedigree. And then I just started off teaching. Like, that's what you do when you're a consultant. You just help people all the time. And I love doing it. And I feel like anyone can learn to do it. And most people want to know about their past and their family's history. So it's just something that's like pretty easy for people to be interested in. So anyways, I just like sharing it because I think people want to know.
Yes.
And
I like teaching.
Okay, so let's talk about teaching someone. What are some of the basics when you are starting? Because I know a lot of people get extremely overwhelmed because there's so, like, if you think of Family Search as a website, it's massive. So when you are teaching, and we'll go with Megan first, like, talk to us just about some of the basics that you do. Give us the secrets so we all know what to do.
Well, I think you always have to start small. I know that when I first started getting interested in family history, like 10 or so years ago, I wanted to find my end of the line ancestors. Those were the people, you know, you want to find their parents and make your tree go further and further back. And I just got frustrated. It did not work out very well. So I think that people need to accept that. They're probably not going to break down those brick walls that have been there for forever. You need to start closer, okay? Start learning about your parents, your grandparents, their siblings even, okay? There's always someone that you can learn more about in your family tree.
And I love that. And we've got just, you know, mentioning our viewers who love to pop in and tell us where they are joining us from. And Eleanor from dark, damp London, I can tell you it's kind of dreary outside here. And we've got snow. I'm downtown Salt Lake. So welcome to everybody here. And Sarah, yes, I agree. It is so cool that you guys get to do what you love. Okay, so start small, Megan. I think that's great advice because it feels so big. Jana, what would you say to people as they're starting to teach someone?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we have to remember as teachers is that you need to, rather than present what you know and spit out everything that you know, you need to be very careful to listen to your student, whoever that may be, whether it's a group of people or just your neighbor or your friend or your kid or whoever it is that you're teaching. You have to listen and try to perceive what it is that they are interested in or their ability level, right? You got to try and gauge where they're at so that you don't blow their mind or just tell them what you want to tell them instead of what they really need to hear, you know? So there's this skill. It's a skill for teachers, not just in family history, but anything we try to teach. We really need to listen to who we're talking with and try and understand them better, and then they'll be taught better. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it seems that we all need that reminder, because I think sometimes with the enthusiasm and the excitement and the energy that you kind of talked about, you want to impart all of this information. But I think that's why this information is so helpful, because who would have thought of that unless you'd had all this experience teaching? So that's fantastic. Nicole, what would you recommend, you know, from your background as we're teaching people for the first time?
A lot of times people want to start doing something, but they don't know where to start. And so they'll say, can you just tell me what to do first? And sure, I have a lot of ideas for things they could do first. And like, I know how I would do it, but sometimes the best thing to do is exactly what Jana said is, well, is there somebody in your family tree that you have a question about? Or is there a certain ancestor that you're drawn to that you've always wanted to learn about? And usually those questions are more helpful than just giving them like a methodology to start with, because then you're focusing on a question that they have or something that they're already wanting to discover. So they're a little more motivated to uncover more details. So
okay, and you guys, that is awesome. They're motivated to look for more details. And we've got Linda, who is talking about, she begins in one place and finds herself hours later, not even in her immediate family tree, but attaching sources and adding details from the sources. So, which I think is super awesome. And we're getting lots of questions. So, but what you also teach kids, you also talk about ways to engage with kids. So is there different advice for teaching kids family history? When I say kids, like, I mean, we can say up until like age 18. So you can jump with whatever audience you want, but let's say non-adults. Who wants to answer that one first? I'll let you guys.
That's a big question, Wendy.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
the question.
We need all the secrets, Jana. Everyone wants to know.
We got like websites for you, you know?
I know. Yes. We will be posting your websites also, because they're really rich and full of resources. But we just want the shortcuts. We need the secret.
Well, I think your question is about kids of different ages. Is that
Yes.
right? How do you help the different demographic?
Mm-hmm.
And I've got right now at my house 7. Like Megan. Are yours all at home, Megan? Mine are all at home right now.
They are.
Yeah, it's a busy life. So I've got an 18-year-old, but my baby is a toddler. She's 2. And so we have the range of ages. And yes, it is different for different ages. There's things you can do to teach your family as a whole, mostly like activities and discovery experiences.
Like movement, right?
Yeah. If you really want to teach your kid, you might want to spend some one-on-one time with them at their level, meet them where they are. So with my baby, we sing songs or listen to music from our homelands or make recipes that are from grandma, you know, or look at pictures. With my 18-year-old, we can get down into the records or do some major indexing. So it is very different, and there are a million ideas.
Okay, and the Genealogy Kids is your website, right?
That's right. That's right.
And
we do have mostly an Instagram account is where we're active right now. We're on Facebook or YouTube. But we do have a website too. The genealogykids.com is kind of our library of ideas.
Okay, so, okay, Nicole, talk to us and tell us your website also and give us all the snippets.
So mine is familylocket.com, and it's about keeping ancestors close to the heart. So we talk a lot about research and finding your ancestors, but when we first started, I used to blog all the time about activities to do with kids.
You have a ton.
And some of the things that we have done, like with my little kids, because right now they're all under 10. And when I started doing family history with them, they were all under 6. So we would do just little craft projects, and I would tell them a story, and then we'd make a craft. And on like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, my son was always interested to learn about his great grandfathers, all of whom were veterans of World War II, which is fun today. It's Veterans Day. And I asked them yesterday, hey kids, can you think of anyone in our family tree who's a veteran? And they could all remember at least one name. Somebody named Hancock? And was it Charles William something? So they could remember a little bit, you know, they remember the stories and they remember what we've done in the past. And so they just like making things. We're just a craft family. So we do little projects. I'll print out little things, and then we made a memorial wreath for Memorial Day that had a headstone on it of one of our ancestors who died in service. And then we went to the cemetery the next day and learned about the service members' headstones, and just, we do a lot of hands-on things. But mostly what I try to do is tailor my child's interest to the activity. So like I said, my son is really interested in the military, and he's also interested in cowboys and stories about his grandpa Bob, who was a cowboy. So we made a little storybook, like with illustrations, and put it all together in a book. And he was so proud of having his own little book that he wanted to make another book later about a different ancestor. So figuring out that my son likes to make books, now I know exactly what to do with him anytime we want to do family history together.
I love that, you guys, such great ideas. And we've got a lot of comments in here from people. And Kathy's talking about how stories that, you know, they would connect people. And I think they're engaging at all age. And I love your idea of, you know, something physical with movement, you know, getting outside, you know, crafts, and then meeting them where they're at, which I feel like, Jana, that's a key message that you'll probably say multiple times. So everyone remember that. Megan, what would you like to add to teaching kids about family history?
I feel like I have not done a very good job of teaching my own children how to do it. But as far as for teenagers, I guess I have done a little bit. I've made a few little YouTube videos. I think the Family Tree app is great for teens. I mean, even for adults, but for teens, it's just something for them to do on their phone that is not social media or whatever, that maybe aren't as fulfilling. Addictive. I don't know. Addictive. Oh, family history can be addictive. But just the Family Tree app, there's so much you can do on there. I was helping a group of girls in my community, and none of them knew how to log in to Family Search, and it just broke my heart. I'm like, just if you can get an account on there and get that app on your phone, it can really bless your life.
Okay, I love this, you guys. Okay, so we've got, first of all, Robert Richmond is saying, this is so heartwarming. Thank you, ladies. And I will second what Robert is saying. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so is there like a task that you do? I know you talked about, you know, not overwhelming people, but and meeting them where they're at. But Jana, you had talked about kind of a home base that you like to, talk a little bit more about that. What is that?
I have just learned over years of trying to teach people how to get started, but also even teaching people that are already in this. You really have to have a place where you always land if you get lost on the internet or you don't know what you're doing or you're not sure what to do next, because the internet is big and it's full of genealogy. And there are so many resources, and we go down these rabbit holes when we're researching people. So it's very easy to get lost. So I always teach people, the first thing I teach them is that Family Search is their home base. And I should say that you did not pay me to say that. This
no,
is
I didn't.
My opinion. And I'm even saying that as a professional genealogist. We need a place where we can always kind of come back to if we're not sure what to do next. And Family Search is that, because first of all, they have the open collaborative tree, the one tree that we're all working on together and trying to connect together. And that's a big deal. They have a huge help section, including access to an army of people behind the scenes at Family Search that can help us when we get stuck, and videos and articles. And they have, very importantly, the research wiki, which to me is kind of like a how-to manual. And even though it's a wiki and it's changing and some places are better than others, if I know, okay, today I want to learn about helping my friend with their Mexico research, and I don't happen to know anything about that, we jump onto the wiki, we read the first page, we learn how to get started. So to me, Family Search is the home base. It's the most important resource out there.
I think that's a great information. And I want to mention, and we've talked about this many times on the live streams, that currently the Family History Library, it is closed to the public, but there is, you can schedule online consultations with experts. And so one of our moderators, if you'll drop that in, a link to that, but you can set up time. And I listened to one of the specialists, I think her name was Corey, and she talked about the wonderful experiences they've had and all the people who have signed up. So take advantage. We've got a couple of people saying, do you help us with brick walls? What's your suggestions? So I think that would be my suggestion, is just sign up for one of those consultations.
Yeah,
They're free. All of our experts in the library are so happy to help, and they feel like, the guest, the patron is the most important. So take advantage of that. Okay, Nicole, talk to us a little bit more about maybe something you would teach someone who's a little more intermediate, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I do try to gauge a person's experience level, or the level that they might be comfortable working at. If their technology is more advanced, but they don't know anything about genealogical records, trying to figure out where they're at. So sometimes I'll be helping somebody who's a beginner, but they're catching on really quickly, and they seem to want to go find, more records than what have already been found. So I really like to show them the Family Search catalog, where they can go in by locality and look and see what records from the microfilms have been digitized, and browse through films that maybe haven't been indexed, and find a lot more resources that are not available as hints. And they can dive deeper into a little bit more research than what's available as simple searches. And that's always really exciting and fun, because you can find new things that haven't been discovered yet.
We had a couple of weeks ago, Ty Davies and Ian James on talking about computer assisted indexing. And so that's really fascinating, because what they're trying to do is create a much faster method for digitizing so many of those images that aren't yet indexed. And so it's really exciting to see. And I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was something like the time it would take for us to index all of the indexed records. I want to say 400 years, guys, but I could be a little off. So let's just say it was for like a really long time. So there's always records being added, and there's always new ways to kind of go in and see. So thank you for that, Nicole. And Megan, you mentioned the app, but talk a little bit more about teaching someone with the app for the first time, and what your sort of approach is.
Yeah, I think one of the funnest, maybe that's not a word, one of the most fun things to do with the app is to see how you're related to other people.
Oh yeah.
There's relatives around me that you can do there. I taught one group of women, and we all opened up the app and did that. And it was just really cool to see those relationships. Some people didn't even know that their cousin was in the room. So that's one of the fun things to do on the app. But really the app, like you can research on the app, you can attach record hints. I like showing people how to look at photos and stories of their ancestors on the app. You can record things on the app. Like there's just so many things that you can do on there. And I think just people getting started, showing them their family tree on there, just showing them, you can switch to the fan chart. You can see different birth countries in the fan chart. Just lots of different things on there. So I love that app, and I love showing people how to use that.
I love how sort of accessible it is. Some people can get very overwhelmed, myself included, with, when you're looking at all of the things. So I feel like the app does a good job of sort of breaking it down. So I think that is a good recommendation.
Yeah. And I think even so, like sometimes I find myself getting stuck on my phone looking at useless information. And if I just open up my app, you can just browse the stories, the photos, the connections in your family tree, and just feels a lot better.
I like that. I like that idea of browsing. Okay, Nelson he's contributing what he does. He says, I've never taught the same way twice. I've never had two friends that were looking for the same thing. So it's exactly what you guys are all saying. Make it about who you are teaching and your audience. I think that's really important. Thanks, Nelson. And we've got a link to the online consultations on here. So we're really grateful to everybody at the library who's working on that. And Delilah is also talking about, she is indexing slave registers of Puerto Rico. And let's just say thanks to the indexers. And so this is a great way to kind of get familiar with records, right? Is to kind of give back. And is this something that you guys have invited people to do? I think, Jana, you talked about that, indexing. And so what is there any method for that works better than another? Bribery?
Yeah, maybe I'll tell you a quick story about indexing and
yes.
children. Usually we like to gather a group of children when we do this, because one child, it's just more of a party, and also have pizza and M&Ms.
Yes.
Indexing is better with food. But about indexing, last week we had a family indexing night. This just happens sometimes at our house. We don't even plan it. It doesn't have to be pre-thought. We happen to be watching a movie. It was Coco, Day of the Dead last week. So we put Coco on because our kids like that. And we just gathered the laptops in the house and we sat around in the family room. And anyone who was old enough to know how to index, we sat down and we indexed. And it's interesting because, the movie makes it a little better, but sometimes indexing is kind of boring for people. It's not the thing that makes them really excited about family history. And I had a 14-year-old and it was like pulling teeth. We were like, come on, everybody gets a batch, do your batch. And, one image was all he could handle. But I think it's important to say, it's okay. There are amazing indexers out there. And if that's not your thing, that's okay. But if it is, awesome, because some of us use those databases that you're creating every week and we're grateful. But finding the interests is what I'm getting to. Finding the thing that people really love to do is really important. So introduce kids to it, introduce adults to it too. But don't necessarily imply that that's just family history. There are other ways to look at it.
Yes, I think that is a good caveat, Jana. And okay, we can take questions, and really we want to take questions around tips for teaching family history. And you've said quite a few things that I think are really beneficial, and a lot of our viewers are also saying that those are things they've learned or they haven't learned. But I would love for you, as we're just seeing what questions we're going to get, to talk a little bit about maybe a success story that you have had when you're teaching someone. And, we love to hear stories. We are Family Search, after all. We're all about story. So Nicole, will you kind of kick it off and share a little bit of a success story?
Absolutely. This is a fun topic. I was pondering what to say, and I thought of a friend that I helped like 8 years ago. And then I was reminded of my sister-in-law, who has been asking me a lot for help. So I'm going to share the sister-in-law. So Camille has been wanting to work on family history because she sees how much fun I have doing it, and my mom, and we're always talking about it. And so she wants to get in on it. Right. And so she and I talk to each other on Marco Polo on our phones. So it's like video chatting, little messages back.
I love Marco Polo.
So she would send me a Marco Polo that says, okay, I'm getting started with family history. What should I do? And this is a question people ask all the time. They're like, what do I start with? And then, like I said, I asked her, so what are you interested in doing? Like, do you want to just start with your grandparents and go back in time and kind of confirm some of the sources that are already attached, get familiar with your family tree? Or do you want to work on like a research project where you choose a question and like look for resources that will answer your research question? And she was like, well, I think I'll start with attaching records. A couple of weeks later, she sends me a Marco Polo. That was kind of boring. I didn't really like that. So I was like, well, let's try doing a research project. Maybe you'll be more interested in finding the answer to a question in your tree. So she chose a question. She started researching, taking notes. And then a couple of weeks later, she was like, oh, that was kind of hard. I don't know if I was ready for that. So then I suggested, well, maybe we should work on some DNA analysis.
Oh, yeah.
And ask your grandparents if they've tested and see what you can find out. She just loved that. She started like talking to all of her 4 grandparents. They had all taken a DNA test. She got access to all of their results. She started sorting them and looking at their trees and matching up common ancestors with the DNA matches. And she just shared her report that she's been writing with me about one of her grandparents, great grandparents, that she found DNA matches that support the conclusion that was just based on clues that she hadn't found any real evidence for. So she wrote a whole report about it and it was amazing. And I was so excited that, like asking her, giving her some ideas and her coming back for more questions was able to find a path for her to find something that worked for her, that she was interested in.
So you just never gave up. And you kept saying there's all these different paths or approaches. So I think that is a great tip. Okay, Megan, do you want to talk to us about a success story next?
Sure. A lot of the people that I teach, I don't know, like on Instagram, there's people that follow my little videos or whatever, or my online course, but I'm going to talk about my mom. So she's always wanted to be interested in family history. My dad has done it a lot. Yeah. But she's like, I know it's something I should be doing, but she gets overwhelmed or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she took my online course and just at the end of the course, what we do is we write their life sketch. And so all of the information that she found, she was able to write this little story about one of her relatives. And just, I know that it was special for her to be able to do that. And I was grateful that I was able to help her with that. So I guess that's one of my success stories.
Oh, I love that. I appreciate that. And we've got a couple of people talking about that they started indexing, and Natalia, I don't know if I'm saying that right. And Bobby, first time watching, welcome. Natalie, I don't know. She said she helped an old friend find siblings that he never knew existed. And he had been missing them for over 40 years. I helped reunite them and got to be part of their first video chat. It was an emotional blessing to help them. Oh, I love that. That is really fantastic. Okay. Talk to us, Jana, about one of your favorite success stories. And I would say, let's just point out that Megan is one of your success stories because people you're teaching.
I hope so.
Yes.
I think so. There's a cute little door knocking in the background. I'll just.
Oh, I love it. We are all in this together. We are at home.
Not sure where the babysitter went, but the 2-year-old is here. So here's a story. The other day we had some friends over. And the purpose was to show them some things about their family history. They really knew nothing. And a lot of times when I do this, I'll ask them to tell me a little bit first before I have them over. So I do a little bit of prep work, right? This is just crazy me. But I want them to have success when they arrive in that hour or 2 that we've scheduled, right? I don't want to be searching for 2 hours and have them realize, this is hard. This takes a long time. Their first experience needs to be good. So I had done some prep work. I knew, their basic tree, and I was in there looking for some new and exciting things that I could show them. And I found some. They didn't know who their great grandparent was, and I was able to show them how to figure that out. And that was cool. But what was really funny was that when they were there and I was showing them this, it was great, and they were grateful. but they really got excited when we logged them into Relative Finder, which is a BYU tool.
Yes.
BYU's created this, and it uses Family Search. But anyway, it shows you how you're related to celebrity so-and-so.
Yes.
And it's funny, you never know. I get excited if I find someone's great grandmother. I think that's really cool. But they were so excited that they were related to some celebrity. And you just never know when you're teaching someone what it is that's going to spark their enthusiasm. And for them, that was it. So think outside the box. Whatever you think it is that they need is probably not always right. So
yes. Oh, such good stuff. And I think this is good for life, right? Like when you're interacting with people, regardless of what you're trying to teach or have some sort of connection, don't make it about yourself all the time, right? Like that is awesome. Okay, we have a couple of questions, not necessarily teaching related, but someone is asking, Nicole, how do you talked about your cousin and what she did with the DNA results, and getting those and then kind of uploading them or sorting them. What does that say a little bit more about that? That's probably like we're going to do some DNA live streams, but how do you sort DNA results is Kathy's question.
That's a good question. So we just start with figuring out who the common ancestor is with the closest matches. So like, let's say you see a first cousin match and you look at their tree and you see that they have the same, grandparents as you. So now you know that they're on your grandparent, that certain grandparent side. And then you see a second cousin and then you look at their tree and you see they have a common ancestor that's your first great grandparents on a certain side. And so you kind of can see, okay, they're descended from that side of my family tree. And this other cousin is from this side of the tree. So now you have kind of two groups and you can just like put them in a spreadsheet, or you can make little colored dots like on Ancestry DNA where you add colored dots. That's my favorite system, is the colored dots on Ancestry. And then everybody in different ancestral groups with different common ancestors gets different colors. So there's also the leads method, which is a fun way of sorting with Excel. You can look that up.
Mm-hmm. What was the method?
Leads method. It's on Dana Leeds website, has a tutorial for it.
Okay, great. And now someone is asking, and maybe Jana will have you take this. They're talking about sorting and organizing papers and files. Like, what method would you suggest for that?
Oh, that's a big question too. And it depends what it looks like, really. If these are things that aren't digitized and they're important family history things, then your very first step is to take that box to wherever you're going to get it digitized and scanned, obviously, because you've got to preserve it. But wow, when it comes to sorting, there are so many different methods. And you already know I'm a Family Search fan. But using the Memories tool to upload your documents and just have a safe place to keep them. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do in your own home and on your own computer filing system. But to me, it's important to know that anything I have digitized is uploaded and shared to a place where it is going to live on, even if I get in a wreck tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So there's a priority with documents to preserve them. That's the first step. And then when it comes to actually organizing them, it's going to be a factor of what documents we're talking about, how many ancestors they relate to, if you've got to sort them into branches of your tree and things like that. So you could do a whole Family Search Live about that, Wendy.
We could. That would be really interesting. And I think there's a lot of different, I've seen, I even think people could even look on the wiki, because I know I've seen some recommendations on the wiki for organizing physical sort of research, and there's different logs. Talk about what the research logs are and what purpose they serve, especially, is this something a beginner should participate in?
Here's my thought on logs. Logs are very important in research. None of us have a brain that's capable of keeping track of all of the places we go, where we find what details, what page numbers helped us to get there. And so it's important that we keep a log for research to be organized. But I have something else to say about that too. And that is, if you are teaching a brand new beginner about family history and you suggest that they keep a complicated research log, then you've way overshot your purpose for the day. So since we're talking about that today, I just want to make that point. Research log is not step one. Go to Family Searching and explore. That's step one. Research log is, okay, once you or the person you're teaching is ready to be a little bit more, methodic about what you're doing, yes, keep a research log. And I keep mine in either a table in a document or in a spreadsheet, which I create myself. I don't have a particular, form out there that I love. I like to create my own because then I can add and manipulate them how I want to. So I just keep my own, but I always share them, upload them to, attach them on Family Search to whoever it applies to so that other people can see it.
Okay, I love that. And I think it was Diane who was asking about staying organized with sort of notes and paperwork, and whatever method is going to, work best, and try a couple things out, and don't let it stop you from doing something, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Post more questions, guys, as we are, if there's topics that you'd be interested in. Megan, I will jump on Instagram, and I often see that you do different, helping people getting started, and you tell us about some of your approaches to that, because you make it seem so easy. What have you found is most successful when you're kind of trying to say, let's get started on Family Search? Because you do things like 5 challenges or days and things like that, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple different challenges on Instagram. I have a little free 5-day challenge. But I think I used to post a challenge every Saturday, something for people just to try on their family tree. I haven't done it for a while, so I'll need to get back into that. But there have been people that are like, oh, you didn't post a challenge this week. And sometimes on Instagram, you feel like you don't know if people are receiving it or not. Some people just don't respond. But I think I always provide some motivation, some sort of quote or something to get people thinking about it. And then a lot of times I focus on record hints because I know that's a big hang up for people, what kind of things to look for as they're looking at these record hints, how to decide if they're right or not, and different things like that. But I really like Instagram. And so I love sharing on there and hearing from people who, like, what I've done has actually helped them get into it.
I keep doing it because I see it and I'm like, you go, Megan, you go, keep going. Okay, there's one other thing I want to sort of ask you guys, in your wise years of teaching people family history and in your own experiences, what do you do? And I haven't asked you guys this yet. What do you do when you're with someone who has a difficult discovery? And there's, a lot of conversation about the stories that are inspiring and the adventure and the cowboy and these, people who left their homes and, came for a new life, or, we hear, and we're often very proud of those stories, but there's oftentimes that are stories that can be painful. And what recommendations do you have for people who are experiencing that themselves, and then people who are teaching someone who's having that experience? Who wants to take that question first? Okay, Nicole, please. Thank you.
This happens a lot. I think some people might feel less than if they have stories like this in their history. So I think it's important to, empathize as much as we can, and then try to share, I have some Black sheep ancestors too. And sharing those stories and connecting over things that we might have experienced as well can be helpful. And my mom recently found out that her great-grandfather took his own life, and that was kind of a difficult discovery, but it actually was also helpful in understanding some of the mental health issues that were going on in that family line, and kind of helped us understand some things in the present as well. So I think it's like a double-edged sword, right? It can be difficult to find them out, but sometimes there is a positive side to it. And hopefully the people that we're teaching, we can connect with them by sharing our own stories, because I think we all have something in our family history that maybe is hard.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I have found that, learning about some of those, what would be seen as hard and would indeed be hard, are extremely that we connect from our weaknesses sometimes, right? And it just makes you feel, I don't know, like, oh, I'm not alone, or all these things that we say, right? I come from strength and resiliency. And I think it's part of I think it's called the oscillating family narrative. Like, there's some hardship and we overcome it. And here we are today. Let's not pretend it didn't happen. And we know too, from research, that not talking about traumatic things isn't helpful. And there's lots of ways you can do that. You can journal, you can talk, but pretending it didn't happen is probably not a good approach. And I know for me that I appreciate when I can learn more about ancestors who had hard things. And yeah, so thank you, Nicole. Jana, what do you want to say?
Add to that? Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the term oscillating narrative. I think we steal that from several years back. Bruce Feiler, in his New York Times article, talked about how important this is for children to understand the oscillating narrative, the ups and the downs of their own family history. And that is really important to remember, because if we only tell the happy stories and we make heroes out of only the happy elements of our ancestors' lives, then we only have half the story, because we're all human. And understanding that and seeing it, recognizing it, it connects us to them better. For example, I had an ancestor that I had researched for many years, and I had kind of built him up as a hero inside of my head. He was one of my people. I had learned to love him and his family, even though I didn't know very much about them. But when you work on someone that long, you do. And one day I discovered the court record and the newspaper article where he was described as the scoundrel in town. And my first response was to be a little bit heartbroken, but almost immediately I was like, oh no, he stole that piece of meat from that butcher because he had 10 kids to feed, or maybe he was actually a scoundrel, but either way, life was hard for him. And I was able to look at his life a little differently than I had before, having learned those negative facts about him. So this is important.
Well, and we're all built up of all these experiences, and so I appreciate how you talk about that. And I think when you're saying, if we're just telling the happy stories of the past and we're living these days that are like they're up and they're down, it's like, oh wait, they did too. That just really, like, let's tell those. And it doesn't have to be broadcast, right? It can be done in a respectful way. It could be, but I don't think we need to be ashamed or hide from them either. Megan, what thoughts do you have around that?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, I think it makes our ancestors seem more real. When we realize that they had a life, they had ups and downs, they had problems just like we do. And I think that just makes us feel more connected to them and more like they were actually people that lived and that had a life.
And yeah, they had a life, and there were things that were hard. And Lisa is saying that there's a difficult story she feels that she needs to tell, and she has permission from the person to write it, and she just doesn't know how to start it or how to write it. Do you have any suggestions for her? Because I sure do. Let's go with you guys. Who wants to take that one? Should I? Okay, I have, where is this book? This is the gentleman who did some of the first research around, it was Holocaust survivors, and they weren't telling their story because it was so painful. And many of them were young. And so he did some academic research. I think it was James Penbaker and Joshua Smith, and they did research around people narrating these experiences and what happened to their physical and mental health, and they watched that. And this really kicked off, I think what he said has turned into thousands of studies. And so Lisa, the answer that I think I would recommend is whatever method makes sense to you. So when I journal myself, I do a variety of methods. Sometimes I write, oftentimes I record myself with the voice memo because I'm verbal, no surprise there. So whatever, Lisa, whatever is the way that is gonna have the least obstacles, that's what I would say to do. And oftentimes it's less about the outcome, which is this recording or this written piece as it is about the experience when you're talking about kind of going through the trauma. And this is, opening up by writing it down. So there's some great research out there that can talk about that process, but I would recommend do whatever is going to be the easiest for you. Because, it's like with cameras, what's the best camera? The one you have with you. Right? Okay, so we are getting to the end, and I am looking, Wendy just said a lovely thing. She said, every soul is a testimony of God's love and fingerprint. And Sherry, people are also replying to Lisa. Sherry says, start at the beginning, sit on it for a while and rewrite if necessary, and make sure you get both sides of the story. So there's lots of resources out there. And thank you for answering that question. I think it's something that I would love to see talked about a little bit more. Okay, as we're wrapping up, tell us your very favorite family teaching, family history experience, tips, anything. You guys can just share one last thing, and it can be whatever you want. And make sure to tell us where to find you, where we can learn, because we can all benefit from learning alongside you. Who wants to take it? Megan, Karen is saying she just looked at your YouTube site and it looks awesome. So Megan, let's start with you. Tell us where to find you, and then just whatever you want to say.
Okay. I'm predominantly on Instagram. Modern Genealogy is my username there. Also on Facebook. I have a website, moderngenealogy.ca, because I'm Canadian. And I have an online course there. But I'd say my tip is, I think a lot of us have a full tree. I had a very full tree, and it was really hard to find people to research. So researching siblings of my ancestors, that's where I have found the most success with finding new records and finding new information. Often they get forgotten. We're just interested in our direct line. But if we research those siblings and their children, we can have a lot of success. So that's one of my tips.
I love it. And let's just say, I loved what you said, they get forgotten. And everyone who's watching this and everyone that you teach, one of the reasons we do this is we do not want our people to be forgotten. So that was beautiful. Jana, on to you.
All right. Well, you can find me and my children at thegenealogykids.com. But like I said, we're more active on Instagram. So the Genealogy Kids is our account there. If you want the professional genealogist, Jana, you can get my contact info through the ICAP Gen website, because I'm an accredited genealogist on their directory. But I guess for a final tip, I have kids on my mind constantly, so I'll share one more kid tip. I just wanted to share that as we are looking for ways to teach our families, so whether that's your kids or your grandkids or your nieces, nephews, neighbors, whoever the kids are in your life, I think it's really important to remember it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, and you can build it into daily life. You can talk about the recipe you're making. You can grab a photo of grandma and tell a story. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be really simple, and it should be, because then it becomes part of our life and our routine, and we do it more. So there's a final tip for you.
I love that. I love how you said it becomes part of our routine and we do it more. And you can just immerse yourself in kind of being reminded that family history happens all around us. We live it, right? Yeah. I love that. Okay, Nicole.
Okay. You can find me at familylocket.com, and we have a Facebook page too. And then my mom and I have a weekly podcast called Research Like a Pro. So we do that together. It's really fun to talk to her every week about genealogy. So my final tip is, when you are feeling overwhelmed, or if the person you're teaching is feeling overwhelmed, one of my favorite things to do is just set a goal to spend 30 minutes a day on something. And sometimes I think we are expecting to be able to find these big chunks of time, where we're going to have 3 hours to sit down and research. And often we don't have that large of a chunk in our day. But if we just do 30 minutes a day for a month, we can make huge strides in writing that family story that we've been wanting to write, or in learning how to attach hints and kind of becoming familiar with the website, whatever the level is that you're at. Just committing a little time every day can take away some of the overwhelm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Okay, this was delightful. Nicole and Jana and Megan, and thank you for everyone who joined us. And there's been some great conversations going on in the comments. And as we wrap up, I want to invite everyone that next week, and you guys, you've got to come and watch this. Next week, we're doing our live stream on Tuesday. And I'm super excited because we will be talking with Dave Isay, who is the founder of StoryCorps. And so we are going to get all sorts of information about stories and sharing. And he and his organization are kicking off the Great Thanksgiving Listen In, where they invite young people to interview seniors and to document stories. So it's such an important part of connecting. And so come join us, but it will be Tuesday. So we would love to have you there. And for everyone else that, just thank you from Family Search. And we want to invite you to come and see what you can find out about your family, give us comments, sign up for consultations. We love your feedback, and we just appreciate the opportunity to engage with people like our guests and like our viewers. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.